Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you guys so much for joining me here this morning for Women in Wellness Wednesday. Well, let's get started with honoring God with our bodies. So, God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over our mouths. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect our reproductive organs and help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word, be a lamp for our feet and a light on our path. And with that, that's something we say every morning. I try not to butcher it and mess it up too bad, but it's just to help us get our hearts and mindset right as we go into today's news, which can sometimes be challenging. So, with that, let's start off with our X, what's trending on X, right? So, we did talk about the DSA leader. And it's interesting because I was like, I covered that. And then it was like traction, traction, traction. And amen, Spud McKinsey. Thank you so much for that. So I'm like, now everybody's talking about it. So hopefully this will start a broader conversation, right, as to where the country is leaning. But again, it's not the first time that we have faced socialists, I would say, in movement. It's always been here in America, but it's attracting popularity, in my opinion, because people are tired of the system the way it is. And it's working for some, not for others, but it's working in a way that it's working against the American people. So when they hear socialism, like, "Oh, this is great," it's really not great. It really, really isn't. There are better things that we can do to do better for the citizens of this great nation. So I wanted to point out a couple of more topics on X. There's an Applebee video revives anger over NYC vaccine mandates. Yeah, that could happen again. And then AI firms destroy used books to train models, drawing book burning comparisons. Yeah, we cannot give up our humanity for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will never replace us because it is us. What do you think they're getting all the information from? They're getting it from us. Garbage in, garbage out, right? But we cannot get to the point where we're so self-reliant on it that we stop thinking for ourselves. And a lot of you out there are like, but you use Grok. I use Grok to aggregate. Sometimes I do use it to be like, hey, is this what this says? Right. But I'm using it for research purposes. That's it. And if I do compile any information, I still have to go back through and edit and read it to make sure that it's right. Sometimes I draft outlines, but I'm using it more so as an administrative tool as opposed to a replacement for my brain. And we have to remember, as human beings, we are the supercomputer. We truly are. And we're very technical, right? People sometimes can't figure out why things happen in other people's bodies when they have a whole bunch of textbooks to tell us otherwise. So I also wanted to point out Rick Jackson. I got to actually attend an event here in Camden County where I got to meet Rick Jackson personally. So I wanted to play this short clip from Shirley Winters, who is mentioning the campaign.
But Rick Jackson, I'm watching this campaign in real time. What they're doing for outreach, minority outreach, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, what they're doing is phenomenal.
Okay. And I will say that. I will say that it was really a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with the gubernatorial candidate for Georgia for the Republican Party. And he went around the room, and a lot of people say he's working the room. He was listening and he was asking very poignant questions. And, I did ask him, I said, as far as, in my opinion, the Black community, you know, regulations need to, there needs to be help with Black business owners entering and really helping with the regulations. And he says, well, maybe they might need help with their business plans. And he gave me an example of somebody in his life that needed a better business plan. He goes, I'm looking, if elected, to actually put together a special office and division to specifically deal with those pain points. I'm paraphrasing, but with those pain points to address that. And I appreciate that. He goes, because that's across the board, not just in the Black community, but in all communities that really want to start a business, making sure that it's solvent, making sure that it's going to make money, but having the proper business plan to get the proper loans. Right. And so I was kind of blown away. I was like, yeah, because what certain states don't realize is, or I should say, politicians in states, it's not the federal government's responsibility to keep you afloat as a state. It's not. It is your responsibility as a state to bring in revenue. That means jobs, that means corporations that are going to hire the people in your state. Okay, that's what that means. And I would rather have Rick Jackson as governor as opposed to Keisha Lance Bottoms. And it's only because, sorry, Keisha, the Democratic Party, they truly believe that it's the government's responsibility to take care of the state, and it's not. And it's not the state's responsibility to just spend money willy-nilly everywhere. There has to be a fiduciary account for the citizens of the state. You have to realize, to keep your state solvent, you need to bring in business opportunity so that the citizens can work and be independent and not be on welfare, right? And not need state assistance all the time. It is to make your citizens independent. So those are things that I really want to see happen. So I'm really looking forward to it. If you live in Georgia, make sure to vote for Rick Jackson, because we have a choice between moving forward or moving backwards. And I truly want to move forward. So, with that, let's check out All Sides. And on All Sides, we've got another McConnell update. I'm tired of these pictures. I'm just like, I need a video of him talking in real time, not these weird meme AI things that they've been doing, but an actual video. Because as far as we know, it says various reports on health of absent Senator Mitch McConnell have emerged this week as Kentucky's Democratic governor, Andy Beshear, has called for transparency or his resignation. And I'm okay with that. I am so okay with that, because why did his wife leave the country after he was hospitalized? Like, sorry, ma'am, we are looking at you sideways. Like, what is going on? And is she back? Do we know? Like, what's going on? Like, none of this makes sense. None of it. It's weekend at Barney's, as far as I'm concerned. Why do you keep sending pictures? He's not going to be well enough to go back to the Senate. This is it. Y'all need to call it and shut it down. Period. It's ridiculous. It's because he says, at this point, Mitch will hold command post in hospice. We already know they are. We already know they are. But it's horrible because it's really dampering the Congress or the Senate, which is where votes are needed and for things to get done. So I'm praying for his family. I don't wish any harm to him, but we need to know what is going on for real. These pictures, It's really, it's not helping. It's making it worse. It is Weekend at Bernie's. Bad. But we've had this a few times. Like I said, we had it with Dianne Feinstein before she passed away. We had it with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court. Same thing. We had the same thing with David Scott here in Georgia. Why should I be mentioning more than one person that's going through? The only one that was kind of shocking that happened was Lindsey Graham, because he wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong with him to our knowledge, and he just passed away, right? I'm looking forward to a real update, a real update. So with that, I wanted to get into something that someone shared with me about California. And you know what? I'm just going to let the video speak for itself.
They are in Sacramento. They're building a $1 billion new office building in the capital. When this thing is done, it's going to be like a Taj Mahal. They're all going to have their private offices connected to the Capitol, and they're building a tunnel so they can walk from their office to the legislative floor without interacting with the public. They want to insulate themselves from any scrutiny, any accountability, so they can stay in their bubble. The only reason Nick Shirley is able to confront them right now is because they are in a temporary office building that's like 2 blocks from the Capitol, and they have to walk from that building to the Capitol. So anybody can stand in that space and engage them. If that wasn't happening right now, you would never see these people. You would never get a meeting with them. Yeah. They would never answer a question. They would never do an interview. And that's their attitude, is like, leave us alone. Don't bother us. We're going to do what we want to do.
Yeah. And they have the same types of tunnels in Washington, D.C. And as the American public, we need to demand that it be stopped, right? They already have the Nick Shirley bill or act in California where they're trying to make it illegal for independent journalists to question businesses operating that are NGOs or different charitable organizations where there may be potential fraud. They're trying to make it so where they can't do that. I mean, California is wild. People are leaving in droves. It's like, get a clue, really? And now you want to try to protect yourselves from journalists? It's not going to protect you from getting reelected. People are tired of the politics in California, and it's destroying the state. So we definitely need to keep California in prayer. So let me get my notes here really quick. Yeah, so I hope you guys are doing well this morning. Let me see. Let me get this. Sorry, you guys. Didn't memorize all my notes. Oh, yes, this next video is talking about ending TPS for Haitians.
Are still in the waiting stage as to their future here in this country.
Now leaders are speaking out after the expiration of TPS. 2 News reporter Avery Feldman is in the newsroom with what exactly is being said. Avery.
Caleb, Kelly, for the first time in weeks, Springfield Mayor Rob Rue has spoken out about what comes next for the future of migrants in America. As some people from Haiti and Syria leave the U.S., Springfield is saying goodbye to some of their own neighbors. Many residents are still split on whether Haitian TPS holders should have been able to stay and what should happen to those who leave, but went to last night's City Commission meeting to hear more of what Mayor Rob Rue had to say. He says that while immigration policy is the federal government's responsibility, the city's is to provide essential services, maintain public safety, and serve everyone in the community fairly according to the law. He calls on Congress to provide an opportunity for a permanent legislative solution.
As an elected official serving in a nonpartisan role, my commitment is to the citizens of Springfield. I believe it's also important to care about people regardless of their nationality and offer support while following the law.
Mayor Rue says the city has not heard from ICE about any planned enforcement operations in Springfield, but their focus is maintaining the safety of everyone in the community. I'll have more reaction from community.
Yes, and Spud McKinsey says, what's wrong with transparency? Basically, yeah, understood. But this whole thing with Haiti is disgusting. And they've been here for 16 years. TPS is for 18 months. And everybody's like trying to cry tears. I'm not crying 2 tears in the bucket for this. You should have been gone. period. And this is not a race issue. This is a citizenship issue. This is a resource issue, period. Bottom line, you shouldn't have been here. 16 years? And a lot of people go, well, why didn't they apply for citizenship? Because you can't under TPS because it's temporary. It is not a pathway to citizenship. And people say, well, why shouldn't it be? Because people weren't vetted when they came over here under TPS. There's a lot of problems, okay? And TPS is one program, in my opinion, that needs to be abolished and shut down because we already have refugees. We already have asylum seekers. That is TPS. But they use TPS as a way so that if it was an earthquake and it didn't fall under refugee or asylum status, they could still help people. I get it, but stop it. You've abused the system. And that mayor talking about, well, we need to treat everybody fairly. No, you need to take care of American citizens. That's your job. Period. That is your job, to take care of American citizens. You accommodate those under TPS, but 18 months? And I'm sure he's been put in way after because it's been 16 years. He hasn't been the mayor for 16 years. Okay. So it doesn't fall on his shoulders. But federal government, where have you been to fix this? Because to that city have been supporting these individuals 16 years. It's just wrong. It's wrong. Now, the next one that we're going to get into, I want to say this should be where in Colorado, they're giving illegals tuition. This is just weird.
The DOJ has taken Colorado to court, accusing the state of giving illegal immigrants college benefits like in-state tuition, financial aid, scholarships that they say should all be going to American citizens.
All those parents that are sitting at home right now thinking about their kids about to start college, many of them are going to have kids who aren't going to state schools in Colorado because their spots were taken by illegal aliens.
All right, let's bring in constitutional law attorney Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor, to break it down for us. Jonathan, take a listen to this before we get into it. This is from the governor there in Colorado responding to this, Jared Polis. He says, states have the right to determine who to grant in-state tuition to. The federal government seizing control of determining in-state tuition across the country is absurd. In Colorado, we're expanding access to education to provide students with the skills to get good paying jobs and doubling down on strategies to save students money. He was right.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a certain truth in the fact that states can spend their money as they wish, and so they can burn as much money as they want on programs, and that includes giving money to people that are in the state who are undocumented. But there is a federal law. It is Section 8. I'm sorry, it's 8 USC 1623. This law was passed by under President Clinton. It passed, by the way, by 370 votes to 37. It was very, very popular. It just simply says that you cannot offer this type of in-state benefit to people who are here illegally and deny it to U.S. citizens. Now, the difference here is considerable. It's not just taking slots in the Colorado school system. If you look at the University of Colorado at Boulder, the tuition there is $66,000. With in-state benefits, it goes down to $35,000. So that is over $30,000 difference that the state is essentially eating. That money is, so you're not only losing the slot, you're losing that money. If you look at the School of Mines in Colorado, the tuition there is $71,000 for out-of-state people. But the lower in-state is $46,000. So that difference, again, is being eaten by the state. Now, what the Congress did in 1996 is to say, look, if we have people here who are here illegally, if they're undocumented, they cannot get benefits that are denied to U.S. citizens. Now, courts have upheld that. The Fifth Circuit is the most recent court of appeals to say that's right. It struck down a law much like Colorado's.
You mentioned the states losing out on tuition money from undocumented students who would pay less under the policy. It seems like the DOJ is arguing here as well that it's like a zero-sum situation, meaning every dollar that goes to somebody who is here undocumented is a dollar that is not given to a U.S. citizen student. Is that the right way to look at this?
It is. So there are actually a number of different costs to something like this. That is, one is you have students who are taking those slots. Another is that there is a significant dollar difference. And that reduction in tuition is going to be borne by the taxpayers of Colorado. And Congress sought to avoid those types of disadvantages for U.S. residents who would have to pay the higher amount than people here who are in an undocumented status. Now, this, by the way, this law continues to be enormously popular. Now, Colorado can do a lot of things if it wants to. If it wants to pay that money, it could basically lower tuition across the board, even for people out of state. But it doesn't want to do that. It wants to give the advantage to people there in undocumented status, but not to U.S. citizens outside of the state.
A key distinction there. Jonathan, thanks for breaking it down for us. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, and that bill that he was talking about in 1996, I didn't realize that there was a clause in there about people undocumented. I know that it was for people that were coming in here legally. They were not able to get any type of state funding or grant funding, even if they're here legally under that bill. So they'll go back and look at that. But here's the thing. Why are you taking it away from U.S. citizens? Like, what is this motivation to really support people that are breaking the law? They are criminals. Now, I know a lot of people want to get sensitive and get all in their feelings. And no, they're criminals. Period. They are breaking the law, and they're just walking around free with impunity, making demands. I deserve to be here. No, you don't. No, you don't. Go back to your country. Fix your country. That's where I'm at. Fix it. Now, a lot of people might get upset with that and be like, oh my gosh, you're being so insensitive. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Stop it. You will stop taking advantage of the United States. You're going to stop. That's where I'm at. Now, this last one, this one's interesting.
Waiting longer than others for this to move through as the House passed that sweeping set of restrictions on stock trades by lawmakers and their spouses. The Stop Insider Trading Act, as you heard, passed by a 232-198 margin. More than a dozen Democrats also getting on board. You can see this from the Nancy Pelosi stock trader tracker talking about this. The bill now goes to the Senate. Most Democrats say the measure, though passed, doesn't go far enough, saying it does not include sellback requirements. The Senate action on congressional stock trading still uncertain. The chamber not scheduled a vote on its own version of legislation, which seeks to prevent not only members of Congress and their families, but also the president and vice president and their families from owning and trading individual stocks. Let's be joined right now here on Live Now from Fox by Chris Joseph, founder of the investing app Autopilot, and also the creator of the popular Nancy Pelosi tracker following stock trades of members of Congress. We've talked before. Does this feel like progress? Was your heart racing last night?
I think it's definitely momentum. After talking about this stuff publicly, after building an app to, copy trade them since 2021, there has been no movement. We've seen bills that have been introduced. We've seen bills that have stalled. This is the first bill that has actually been voted on where you can kind of actually see where people stand. The unfortunate part, though, I think is what Representative Chip Roy said, where they added kind of two votes into one. I ideally would have wanted it to just be purely a stock trading ban vote, where I think you would have gotten more bipartisan support. You throw in the voter ID registration requirements, and obviously that's going to make it more complicated and make it harder to pass. And now I guess, though, at the end of the day, the ball is in the Senate's court. Will they take up the vote? Will they do it? The midterms are coming up soon. There's no guarantee that Republicans will own the Senate majority after the midterms. So the clock is ticking regardless.
Yeah, and some are saying that's part of the poison pill that it might not get through the Senate when they add that kind of voter ID portion to it. Thomas Massey, also the Republican from Kentucky, outgoing congressman, saying Congress is not serious. We're voting on stock trading ban for members of Congress, but Republicans added voter ID to the legislation, not to get Dems to vote for voter ID, but get them to vote against the stock trading ban so they can use it in the November elections. How much is this happening with them playing politics around this? Do you think that makes this less significant?
I think they are playing politics though. So, you know, whether it's less significant or more significant, I think the reality is that representative is right. You know, we running these social media accounts for years, one of the downsides of it is there's a lot of clickbaity stuff. There's a lot of headline stuff. So what these politicians can do tomorrow and what they were doing throughout the day today is they can say, oh my goodness, you know, 200 Democrats voted against the bill to ban congressional stock trading. That sounds terrible on paper. That sounds like that's going to get a lot of headlines, a lot of clicks, and, you know, make people mad about it. But the truth is, you know, to be fair to some of these Democrats that voted against it, they've come out and said, we are in support of a ban on congressional stock trading, but we have to vote against this because we don't agree with the voter ID requirements. So I think there is.
It's all horrible. I'm sorry. Yeah, stock trading ban, slam dunk, right? But you didn't vote for it because you are against voter ID, which over 70% of Democrats want. What is wrong with y'all? Because now it's telling. Now it's telling. Like, you cannot send these people back. You cannot send them back to office because what they want is they want illegal immigration. They want amnesty again. They do not want free and fair elections. They don't. They don't care. Because if they did, this would have been a slam dunk. And they would have been like, you know what? The American people are demanding the Save America Act. They want, you know, voter ID. They want to make sure that our elections are somewhat, you know, reasonable, because you're always going to have a little bit of fraud. It's just going to happen. But at least we know the Democratic Party right now, you don't care. You do not care about voting in this country. You would rather see people cheat. You would rather see people lie and steal than have an actual fair election. I'm sorry. No, this should have been a slam dunk. And for Massey to stand up and say, well, they voted against it because, do you see what they're voting against? It's not like they're voting against something where everybody's like, yeah, that's not a good bill. What? Really? I can't. Yeah, these are the times when I'm just like, stop the madness. Let's really get to brass tacks and focus. The Democrats do not want voter ID because they know if they have it, they will lose. Period. You'll lose because there will be people that shouldn't be voting that will be able to vote. Period. Because guess what? Women, we have name changes. Yes, we do. We actually have birth certificates because we live in this country. The problem is a lot of these people who are here illegally, who are just getting to hang out, right? What is it, long-term residents or whatever, that they can't vote because they're not citizens here. Legal permanent resident, that's what it is. They can't vote. No. People that are here that are college students, they can't vote if they're from another country. There's a lot of different statuses that are legal statuses for people to be here long term, even though they're not citizens. They cannot vote in our elections. Okay. And then the other thing is for individuals that want to swap out body parts and call themselves what they're not. That's another issue. Right? Because you were born one way, you're claiming to be something else. That doesn't match up with your birth certificate. You're not going to be able to vote, even if you are an American citizen. There's that whole situation. And to that, I say, you better figure it out. You know, you can't be born Bob and show up as Susan and vote. It's just not going to happen. Or you can't be born Susan and show up saying you're Bob and vote. It's not going to work because you don't match your birth certificate. Stop. Figure it out. Pick a lane and stay there. Just saying. And with that, that's going to end our broadcast for today. We will have tomorrow will be Mighty Men Thursday, and I don't have any guests yet, but I'm looking forward to having guests on the show as we are coming into ending the summer, right? And kids are going back to school. We need to make sure that we are praying for our students and administrators and schools and just everybody involved, the bus drivers, the counselors, to make sure that as our children go back to school, that they are covered and protected. So again, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.